It's a good morning to you all. Welcome to Asake Online. This is the Breakfast Club. My name is Zenzelen Debele. And today in our program, we'll be talking to Honorable Tshinga Judge. He recently launched a book called Quiet Flows the Zambezi. So we'll be talking to him about his life, his experiences. He's a war veteran and he has a lot of experience in the Zimbabwean politics as well as basically the participation in the liberation struggle from an early age up to now. So he really knows a lot about the history of Zimbabwe. So we'll be trying to find out from him what he has seen so far, his success stories, his regrets, and as well as looking into the future, what he thinks needs to be done for Zimbabwe to be a better place. Babu Tshinga, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Senzan.
Probably I would start by saying you were born, your mother named you Stutuzo, your father named you Othaniel, and you picked the Tshinga Judge. Tell us the story behind that.
Well, I was born as Tutuzo. That was the name I was given by my mother. The name, the meaning of the name came from the fact that the girl, my sibling, who I came after, died before I was born. So she died as a baby or so. So when I was born, my mother chose to give me the name Stutuzo, which means a comforter. So I was comforting her. And my father gave me the name Othniel. It's a biblical name. It's found in Old Testament. Then my peers I played around with and so forth. Nicknamed me Tshinga. And then a lot of people began to use my name, Tshinga. Others called me Tshinga, Abanye Tshinga, what have you. Well, you know, when it's like people who use your name more often than others. They used that name more often until it really drilled into me. So when I went to school, I was asked what your name is. I said Tshinga Judge. And then that's what they wrote. There were no birth certificates then, so they just took that as it was, and it just it overtook my real names from my parents, and so I stayed as Tshinga all my life.
Was there any meaning to the name? In Kalanga Tshinga, umuntu tone Tshinga Ololaka. Is there any meaning to the name?
Well, I think maybe Tshinga, maybe it came from there. But what's in a name? As Shakespeare says, call a flower by any other name, it will smell a flower. Yes, so I didn't put much meaning to it until when I grew up and began to ask, why are you called Tshinga? What have you? But I just accepted that I was Tshinga.
Growing in Matopo as a young boy and during the colonial times, how was life like?
It was very good. Matopo is a beautiful place. Those Matopo hills and the vegetation there is extremely good. There is a big variety of species of trees and fruits, a lot of fruits, though we had to compete with baboons from the mountains, but there still was a lot of fruits, and water flows from the mountains, and a lot of river streams. It's a beautiful place. There's no doubt that Cecil John Ross chose the place to be his grave, to be the place where he would rest when he died. And apparently Matopo is where Mzilikazi is also buried, though it's the difference of about 7 kilometers or something like that. They're all buried in Matopo, and Matopo has a lot of history.
So at one point you moved from Matopo, you go to stay with your aunt, I think, Mzilikazi. And so coming from the rural background, you are now in town. How was that transition?
Yeah, it was quite a cultural shock. You know, when you have been... I used to visit town, of course, with my dad and so forth, because Matopo is only 30 kilometers away from town. So it was not beyond reach. But getting to really life in town was something else, you know. In the countryside, you don't see so many people with different agendas, different occupations, sports and what have you. A lot of activity in town. There's a concentration of activities in the city. Dormitories, which we call townships for the workers, close to each other, and you get to know more people every day than in the country. You are stuck to those people you know, your neighbor from the neighboring villages and so forth. So there's a complete right about 10 in your lifestyle.
This is where I think you meet Mpogo by then.
Yes, yes.
So how was he as a young boy?
No, well, you know, all boys are the same. We went to the same class with Mpogo and others. I hope you just think of Mpogo because he's a man who is well known and so forth. But there were many others. He was all right. He was just like any other boy.
So you would remain friends probably until,
Yes, we became very good friends because, you know, his mother was an SDA and we were SDAs. So we used to go to the Makokova SDA church. So when we got out of the country, we went for training at about the same time. Though he went there just a few months earlier, but we were in the training at the same time in Russia. When I came from Russia, I came to Zambia. He had come earlier, and so he was a camp commander where I was, where I came to. And we lived together. We became very, very close friends.
At what point do you start being involved in politics?
At a very early age. I was still in primary school. I was in primary school. I wouldn't say I was very clear, but I had an idea of what is going on. But as I matured, reading papers like Parade, like Bantu Mimira, and many other publications that carried a lot of political stories. It also helped me to mature. And of course, some teachers were sympathetic towards the liberation struggle, to politics, in fact. So they would also tell us a bit more, say like the countries which have become free, like Ghana and so forth. But you know, to be honest, it's like an instinct. When it comes, it just comes to you. Subconsciously, you find you are in it. Because you see, when someone is oppressing you, you don't need to be told that you are oppressed. It's suffocating you. You know someone is suffocating you. You don't need to be told. So I think this is so it was the wind of change, as Macmillan called it. the winds of change made everybody more conscious that we were actually oppressed people.
In your book, you mentioned some very interesting story where you talk about going to Baba Fields. Obviously, there is soccer that is being played there, but you got there to look after the bicycles of presumably and so I have this picture of how many bicycles were outside. Tell us about that.
It depends. You see, we develop a loyal clientele. You see, sometimes you may get 50 up to 100 bicycles because, very few Africans had any cars to talk about. You would maybe find 2, 3 cars, and the people who owned the cars were well known. Those who were business people or some prosperous few and so forth. But the bicycles, everybody almost owned a bicycle who worked, as a means of transport. You see, when you are young, your brain is very sharp. Sometimes I would get up to 80 bicycles. I would precisely remember each bicycle, the owner of each bicycle. It's easy just like that. And I would polish the bicycle so that the man is happy when he comes, he finds his bicycle polished. And instead of giving you a tiki, he gives you a 6pence. And that it was quite a bit of some money. For 6pence, you could buy a bottle of Coca-Cola and a van or 2.
So you wanted to, you go to school in Solusi, and you want to go to Ghana, and you actually attempt to go to Ghana. What was it about Ghana?
No, Ghana was so much talked about, and to seek for freedom, because we had been told very, very exciting stories about Africans in Ghana who are no longer under the colonial rule. Africans are doing all the running of the country, and I thought that was the country to be in. I had never thought that I would carry a gun to fight against our own people. Though, of course, it was talked about. But in those days, very few people ever thought that we would have a chance of having training in the use of guns and fight the whites. We complained bitterly by way of songs, by way of discussing in low voices of the injustice that we were. You just talked about our coming from Matopo. We were driven out of our Matopo home to a place called Wange. It is not far from Victoria Falls, I think about 50 kilometers from Victoria Falls. Infested with all the predators that you can think of, lions, hyenas, elephants, buffaloes, what have you. And the place was environmentally very unfriendly, especially to animals. But we were driven there by force. We moved out from Matopo, as I put it in the book, and forced to bought a truck which drove us to a place we didn't know. Only my father had been there because he had shown where we were going to be sent. So it was cruelty in its worst kind. We had a beautiful structure at home, with corrugated irons and brick walls, and it was a very comfortable house. So all we had to do was to pull off the roof and they put what we could load into these trucks, and they were sent there against our will. So all those things forced everybody to realize the cruelty of colonialism. Nobody needed to tell you that it was a cruel thing. It was actually exercised on us.
So you end up in Zambia after you've gone up to DRC. You get to Zambia, you know. How do you find it there?
Zambia was not far different from us, except that the situation in Zambia was more accommodating. It was more accommodating. That is, there were a lot of jobs, and a lot of our people had moved to Zambia in search of land. They given a lot of land to grow their crops, and the mines were very active, and a lot of people went to join the mines. So Zambia was not yet free, because it only became free in 1964. But there was a lot of political activity, which was more tolerated. The nationalists, they were more tolerated than in Rhodesia. In Rhodesia, you couldn't do that. Though we had some rallies here, they were strictly guarded by policemen. So in Zambia, yes, there were, but there was a lot of tolerance.
So you then you joined the ZAPU there?
Yes, I joined ZAPU, of course. Not just joining, but became an official of ZAPU, a very active one too.
How do you then end up in Russia at the training?
No, well, you see, there were people, political leaders who were sent to Zambia to open up an office in Lusaka. And their main issue, their main assignment was to register all those eligible young men who could go to be sent for training, because just a handful came from home to go for training. It was not that easy. But in Zambia, it was much easier, because that's why you find that most of our commanders, like Mangena, Nikita Mangena, John Dube, Lookout Masuku, I'm just naming a few, but many others were recruited from Zambia. They were working in the mines and so forth. So it was easy to recruit them, to ask them to come as volunteers. So they volunteered to go the same way I did. They came. People like Tabengwa, like Amos Ngwenya, came to see me and asked if I was keen to go. Obviously, I was very keen, very, very keen. So a group of our people went there. We went for training.
There is a time in Zambia where ZAPU is actually recruiting by force. I think you called it Operation Chikuo. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was much later, in the 60s, in the late 60s, I think 68 or so, or 69. What actually happened was, there was a lot of political activism in Zambia. And now Zambia was free. And we held a lot of rallies of our people. They came in hundreds in all these rallies. And in each rally, we would ask how many people want to go and join the liberation force. Or they would raise their hands, some of them all two hands, even legs, very excited. So people like Amos Ngwenya, who died here now, would have a table where they register all these people, their names, their addresses, and so forth. So when the OAU asked us, you have said that you have a lot of people who want to be sent for training. We said, yes. How many? Oh, we have thousands. Now, he said, all right, we'll prepare. When we are prepared, we'll send in some trucks to come and pick them up. This was done. When the trucks came, we had to go around to try to get these people. But it was not as easy as in the rallies. These fellows give various excuses. Now, tell you about their sick wives, their children have not prepared. They have not prepared their children for the school fees and what have you, or their pensions are not out and something of this sort. So it was hell. It was not easy to recruit even for a truck. So we're caught between the rock and the hard place. What we do, we had to do something. Otherwise, these trucks, these people will say we're lying. We don't have people to go for training. So it was decided that we start conscripting. But we're following the list of those who had registered. Yeah. We'll go at night when we know this house belongs to a Zimbabwean whose name we've got, surround the house and let others go inside. Sometimes a big fight will emerge. Men even take out a chopper or a tomahawk wants to chop you. But we managed to get a lot by force and shove them into a truck and leave some guards with guns guarding those so that they don't run away. Until the truck is full. Once it's full, it goes. So this is how we started.
You build the movement and you really now get into a fully fledged tour. But there's a time in your book you mention an attempted coup by Walter and Tim Kulu, Ken Matema and others. Tell us about that incident.
Yeah, well, you see, this was the problem of internal problems we had in ZAPU. First of all, this Tim Kulu was one of those that we sent for. They were under my department, the communications department. But they were the first elite cadres in the party. What I mean, those who had attended universities and come back and so forth. But communication is a more complicated study. You wouldn't just pick anybody. So we picked most of those and sent them for military training, specializing in communication. But when they came back, there were problems within ZAPU, which were created by Shikerema and others. You see, what I believe really, most of these problems came about because of our association with the civilian population in Zambia. they began to frequent our headquarters and had a lot of influence. Some of them were talking tribalism. And, Shikerema too made a very unwarranted mistake when he went to take the British to take some films of the soldiers crossing the Zambezi, which was very, very serious. I don't know whether he got money for that or it was just a stupid move. But now it was an admission to the Rhodesians that these people are really there and they're crossing Zambezi to come and fight. So this created a big problem within the movement. And then later on, Kerema and Nyandoro and others broke away, and this Frolisi was formed, and then it created a lot of problems. But that is the time when Walter and others came in, and first of all, they seemed to be supporting Shikerema, but later on they broke from each other. They arrested us. We were in the leadership of Zipra and ZAPU, and they put us in a cell. We were in the cell, I think, for about a month or so. Yeah, with our hands tied all the time. We ate while our hands were tied. Yeah,
so did you think at any point they would kill you?
We're not sure, but it was possible because we don't know how angry they were with us. There were a lot of frictions within the party. Anything could have happened. Yeah, there were times when we were very anxious about what's taking place. You know, when you're in that situation, you're not sure what next. You know, you don't know whether you want to pray or you just wait for your destiny.
So you are finally freed, and in 1971 there's a split within ZAPU, actually. Mm-hmm. You know, the formation of Flores. How did that affect the liberation movement as in ZAPU?
Me, on my part, I think it helped a great deal, because once some of our leadership had been infiltrated, we were never going to fight again. It was proven to be true, because eventually Shikerema and his chaps in Flores crossed to Rhodesia, and they ended up working together with the Boers. So then Zipra itself was formed and strengthened a great deal and became a very viable force. But if we had not broken off, the whole movement would have been weakened, because we don't know what actually was happening behind the curtain when all these people were compromised to the extent of calling these people to film us, and there were a lot of frictions indeed. But at the same time, there was so much mistrust within the movement that it would have been very difficult to make a formidable movement. But then after 1971, you know, this Flores took a very short time. It wasn't a long time, maybe a year or so. And things went back to normal when Zipra was formed, and people began to be themselves and formed proper structures. Unfortunately, in 1972, end of 72, I was sent to Russia to do some studies as well as look after the party issues, and students were there. We had many students who had been sent there for various disciplines: engineering, medicine, agronomy, and many others. I think at one time we had more than 300 students.
So when did you come back to the liberation struggle?
Yeah, I came back 78. Well, I went 73. I was in Tanzania. Then I went to Russia. I used to come for consultations in Lusaka and so forth. But I came back, I was recalled. You know, when I left, I was the head of communications. And I left when I was the president, our president, Comrade Nkomo, called me back to the forces, to Zipra, to take over again the communications. Again, I went back to the Zipra High Command in 78, and this is how it happened.
One of the things that I talked about when I talk about the liberation struggle, especially in Zapu, is the death of Nikita Manken. And there are some people who are saying it was an internal fight. What did you say about
No, it's all nonsense. You see, people sometimes make unnecessary conclusions. Yes, there were some issues before where Mangena was shot by some renegades. They had injured a hand. I know he was brought to Moscow, and I looked after him myself. I was with him. He told me about a lot of those problems that were taking place. But this issue, when he went there, he was a very forceful man. Nkomo had told him not to go, to send other boys to do it. But he was a man who believed to be in the front with soldiers. And unfortunately, he was blown off by a mine. There were so many mines. I personally almost lost my life in a mine together with Philip, General Swanda, who is now CDF. When we drove through, we went through an anti-tank mine, but it just, God or the devil knows why he didn't blow off.